Verseology. Verseology encompasses and defines the foundation of every existential and non-existential verse, of every attribute, category, mode, possibility, potentiality, and theory within and outside of possibility, impossibility, nothingness, and totality, ever mentioned or seen, and above the absolute infinite multiplicity amount never mentioned, seen, or even conceived of yet, of all of fiction, all of non-fiction, all of transfiction, all of fan fiction, all of metafiction, all of hyperfiction, all of patafiction, all of interfiction, all of personal fiction, all of impersonal fiction, all literary genres encompassing narrative causality that we're all stories, and all of Tarnay fiction on every single personal, impersonal, and transpersonal level. When we go into the brackets, verse. A verse is a continuity in which encompasses a franchise of stories written or transcendently written by an author or creator, which may or may not have been established by the foundation for which it exists. Verseology is the realm in which a verse is defined, as well as the realm in which an existential or non-existential continuity is defined. A verse is generally encompassed by possibility, nothingness, and totality, the grand principles of creation, but even those attributes are defined in verseology. The higher dimensional attributes of possibility, nothingness, and totality are of no relation. The next bracket, verse principles. For any given story tier, there exists rudimentary elements that no matter how possible or impossible, their manifestation is required for the story itself to happen. If not, there would be no story. Verse principles is the realm in which defines this very mode. Different laws encompassed by categories and zeniths of omni are defined by the verse principles, and tiers of narration and plot index are simulated and defined within verse principles as well. Verse principles defines the stage in which a plot story verse author is created and is allowed to operate. Verseology encompasses this plane and paratext and turns all theories into actuality and above. The next bracket, the grand stage. Verseology consists of several grand stage systems of para-omni based on the premise that there is always something greater than the highest point. Transcendence surpasses perfect sets and thus transcends even itself. The grand stage is where transcendence itself is defined and thus the trigger for it is set. Improbables, impossibilities, inconceivables, and imaginatives are set on the grand stage, waiting for the trigger to take center stage. Verseology defines the attribute of selection and allows for said attribute to manifest within a verse, within an event, and etc. The grand stage goes far beyond that, in which the fully transcendent author of a story can operate. For without the grand stage, there would be no fully transcendent author of the story and within the story. An index created by the plot cannot be formed without the grand stage's decree or very observation. In order for something to exist or happen for no reason other than that the plot requires it to, the grand stage must allow for a selection to take place, in which the fully transcendent author is allowed to create said attribute for the event for it to manifest. The grand stage embodies an ever-transcendent ladder in which the highest point is always at the bottom, never being able to climb higher, for always being at the top can only subjugate the highest point of authority to the logic of the lowest. The last bracket, Suggsology. Suggsology is a paraphilosophy within verseology that transcends unsolvables, the narrative causalities, and the word of authors. The very realm of the verse, which is by default under the foundation of its author, is outright ignored. Suggsology bypasses all theories and philosophies of creation and that which was written, willed, or acted, establishing a realm that houses solutions and transcendence to every plot, story, verse, author, and above the concept of an absolute boundless multiplicity amount never mentioned, seen, or even conceived of yet. That was, is, and could be. This is verseology, and this is effectively the power of the Ace of Spades. This is the Ace of Spades. I wouldn't even call it power, actually. This is what the Ace of Spades uses. This is what he operates on. This is his foundation. Its foundation that effectively everyone is subjugated to. Unless